Will the Utah Utes have a top 10 defense in college football? That's what we're going to discuss. Let's talk about this Utah defense last year. Last year, Utah's defense ranked 25th overall in the country, allowing just 20 points per game. That was the second best in the Big 12, only behind the team down south in the conference. 129 rushing yards allowed per game, which ranked 35th. 200 passing yards allowed per game, which ranked 39th. 329 yards allowed per game, which ranked 29th. So Utah's defense was 20th last year, or excuse me, 25th, and they want to make a leap to top 20. So that means rather than allowing 20 points per game, Utah would have to hold their opponents to 17 points per game or under 18 points per game. That's what all the top 10 defense from a season ago were able to do. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening. As I mentioned, to me, Utah's defense takes a slight step back. Well, why am I saying that? Because they lost 9 key contributors a season ago. Granted, they returned 9 key contributors, but they lost 9. They lost 5 of them, especially on the defensive line. So is Utah's defensive line going to be good? Yes. But is it going to be good enough to put this team in a top 10 defense? I don't think so right now, unless guys like John Henry Daly, Paul Fitzgerald, Logan Fano, and are just Dallas Vakalaki are just ready to be among the best in their position at the conference. And I have questions if they can do that because I haven't seen very much of them in meaningful football games. A reminder, no pass rusher on Utah's roster has had 4 or more sacks at the P4 level. Yeah, Paul Fitzgerald at 8 at Utah State, but there is a leap and a jump up when you're going to the Power 4, hence why we didn't see a lot of Paul Fitzgerald last season. It took him time to grow, develop, and get ready to go, right? So when you look at who Utah lost last year, Junior Tafuna, Samote Pepa, Keanu Tanavasa, I would say the team's 3 best defensive tackles. I know there was Licky Vaimahi's in there, but I would say those were the 3 best D tackles. You lose your top 2 defensive end, Connor O'Toole and Van Fillinger. And then you also lose, and Logan Fano was right in the mix there too, but from a pass rush perspective. You lose Karene Reed, arguably your top linebacker, Alakai Gilman, a starting safety, Zamaya Vaughn, and Cameron Calhoun. That's a lot to lose. Yes, Utah returns 9 key contributors from last season, but Utah lost a lot on their defense, especially as I mentioned, including those guys along the defensive line, which are massive losses. So this Utah team, to me, did get worse defensively when you look at who they lost and who they're replacing them with. Could the defense, it's not much worse. Utah allowed 20 points per game last season. Like, to me, Utah's going to be right there in the 22, 23 points per game allowed range on the season. So it's not going to be a major drop-off. But once again, I do think they take a step back. I just think it's really hard for this unit to have gotten better with the losses that they made and the unproven pass rushers. Pass rush is a huge part of your defense. And Utah is a massive question mark there right now. I think the linebacker room is going to be really good. I think the linebacker room is better's a lot because you lost Karene Reed, but it's right there, if not better. The secondary, I actually do think will be better. I like Gilman a lot, but I think that safety duo, Rabbit Evans and Teo Johnson, another year at Teo, he's going to improve. I think Rabbit's going to have a monster season with this Utah squad. And losing Calhoun and Vaughn hurts, although I thought Vaughn took a little bit of a step back at times last season. But this Utah team, overall, I think the secondary is really good. Smith Snowden is fantastic. Elijah Scooby Davis is really good. And Utah has tons of other bodies, whether it be Blake Cotton, who's played a ton of football, or just you need one other guy to step up out there. And I think all of these guys are capable of doing that. So to me, it just really comes down to the pass rush. And I'll say that other corner spot is a slight concern. But it comes down to the defensive line as a whole, because while I think this defensive tackle group can eat up double teams with ease, I don't know that for sure. Also, when you need to be a top 10 defense and hold teams under 18 points per game, helps to not play good quarterbacks. Big problem with that. Utah's in the Big 12. You'll see a lot of good quarterbacks. They play, and even in non-conference, right? You see Nico Iliamava. You see Mortensen from Texas Tech. You see Jalen Daniels from Kansas. You see Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. Get Avery Johnson from Kansas State. We get ASU's Sam Levitt. Those are all top 30 quarterbacks in the country. So, and Utah sees all of them. So where are the breaks? And a lot of those too, like Utah goes to Baylor. Baylor is made of one of the best offenses in the country, right? Utah has to go to UCLA. I think it's a Utah defense that will show up and do well there, but that's still not easy. You go to Kansas, last game of the regular season. So it's just a lot to have to play all of that, right? So it's just hard for me to see Utah allowing 3 points per game less than they did a season ago, with massive questions on the defensive line and just a lot of change and turnover on this roster, as well as playing a bunch of really good offenses, right? This is still a Utah defense. Honestly, I think they got a really good chance to even be the 3rd best in this conference but I do think they fall somewhere in that 3 to 5 range, right? Like BYU should be good again on defense, even though I think I have some questions about their defensive line. How about Iowa State, Kansas State, Tech? Probably, I mean, Tech probably have the best one with all the talent they added, right? ASU, maybe Baylor's in there too. I think Dave Aranda's a really good DC. Let's not forget he was the defensive coordinator on that LSU team that went on to win it all. I see Houston as a team that's fallen back, and as I said, I think personally think BYU will be outside the top 5, but they were the best defense in the conference. Jay Hill's a really good defensive coordinator. They could easily be right there, right? So Utah's going to have a really good defense this college football season. I want to reiterate that. Like, I am incredibly high on this Utah defense. I think there are lots of really good pieces in place there. How about Lander Barton? I think he's going to have a monster season. And Jonathan Hall is a guy I'm really high on too. Now he's got a year of linebacker under his belt. Leavani Demuni, the guy who just makes everything, who just does so much that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, I'd say, when you're talking about Demuni. Also, one thing that could very well lift Utah into being a top 10 defense, but I will just say again, it's the personnel that holds them back to me a little bit from being top 10. Still one of the best in the conference because you have Morgan Scalley and tons of great position coaches, right? Colton Swan, Luther Ellis, Coach Powell on the D line, Sharif Shaw. Like, Utah is loaded with great defensive coaches. And I think one of the best defensive coordinators in sport. That's also, what is that defensive coordinator going to do? Is the team's head coach in waiting. And I think he's going to be pretty spectacular when he does get that opportunity to do so. So it's a lot of really good with this Utah defense, and Morgan Scalley will design some blitzes that can get Utah home. But who on that defensive line is feared? Who's going to be the mayor of Sac Lake City? There's candidates that could be and could surprise us, and I'd love to be wrong, but it's very hard to be a top 10 defense in the country. Once again, also helps when you have the schedule that's going to give you chances to beat up on some not great offenses. Outside of Cal Poly, Wyoming, Cincinnati probably. Even Cincinnati could be all right. Maybe a Colorado. Like BYU, I don't know how good their offense is going to be because of questions at quarterback. Like, there's just not a lot of games where I'm like, oh, yeah, Utah's going to hold them under 2 touchdowns because there's just really good offenses in this conference. So Utah's going to have their work cut out for them. And they have the bodies to step up and make the leap into the top 10. And I know it's a defense that's motivated. I talked to Lander Barton about that, and he said there will be no drop-off. But it's just hard for me when I look at what Utah lost to then go, yep, no drop-off. Because it's easier said than done. It's really hard to not drop off when you lose the talented veterans that were a lot of those guys too, right? Like Reed, Fillinger, Tafuna, Vaughn. They were a part of both Pac-12 title runs. That's a lot to have to lose that. And I'm just really curious to see if this Utah team is able to improve without them. It's possible, but it's not going to be easy. So look forward to seeing what this Utah football team can do with their work cut out for them in some ways to be a top 10 defense. We'll never rule it out because of Morgan Scalley, because of a couple of those players. Lander Barton, Smith Snowden, I think are going to be some of the best at their position. Teo Johnson, Rabbit Evans. Not just in the Big 12, but maybe even college football when it comes to those 4 individuals. And a lot of really good around this defense. But we're not talking about really good. We're talking about the top 10 in the country. Can Utah do that? I think it's going to be really tough with his schedule and the fact that they do not have a standout pass rusher that we look at here. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this hole-in-one is for everyone to enjoy and can help you energize your game. Let's be honest, some days on the course are honestly off it too. You just need that extra boost to help you stay sharp. I know for me, after a long day at work, I want to go to the gym, but sometimes I'm just really tired. That's where 5 Energy can help give me that extra second kick that will help me get to the gym and get done and just be there for what I need to do on my to-do list. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive $20 off your order. Once again, the promo code is LOCKEDONGOLF. All caps, no spaces, at 5hourenergy.com today to get 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. On tomorrow's show, we'll have another media availability of fall camp to react to. We'll see who's standing out, what we're learning about this Utah football team as we inch closer and closer to the 2025 season. If you're in the market for a second listen, make sure you check out Locked On College Football. And we'll see you tomorrow on Locked On Utes.